Good morning, everyone. And like Regina had mentioned, welcome to our coffee and conversation on adaptive signals. We're so happy that you're able to join us this morning and for the opportunity to continue to advance these educational opportunities through our coffee and conversation format. Like she mentioned, my name is Vanessa Correa. I am an educational program coordinator with the T2 Center, and I coordinate our traffic signal efforts. I will be the moderator for today's webinar. So this is our fourth opportunity actually to come together as a traffic signal community on the topic of adaptive signals. We've heard from colleagues from around the country, and we thought that this would be a great time to bring the conversation back to Connecticut. So this morning we have wonderful representatives from Greenwich, Norwalk, and Stamford, who I'll introduce in just a moment, to share their progress with their adaptive systems, including the successes and challenges that they face with this traffic technology. So just a little bit on the structure of today's session. Each of our panelists will talk about their experiences, and then we will open up the conversation with a Q&A. During the presentations, we really encourage you to ask questions and share comments in the chat. We'll be monitoring it throughout the session, the presenters and myself. And thank you to those of you who sent questions in advance. We really appreciate when you do that. But we will start with those questions and then go back into the chat for some other ones as well. So I'm going to introduce our presenters now. So with us today, we have Stephen Frycz, Traffic Signal Operations Manager with the City of Stamford. Gabriella Circosta-Cohee, Town Chief Engineer with Greenwich in the DPW Engineering Division. And then we have Fred Eshraghi, Traffic Engineer with the City of Norwalk. So I will now turn it over to our first presenter, Stephen, who will share his screen after I take mine down, and he'll kick us off to share some about his experiences in Greenwich.
Stamford.
So Stephen, whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Your screen looks good.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. So good morning, everybody. My name is Stephen Frycz from the City of Stamford. I'm the Traffic Signal Operations Manager. And today I'm talking about our first adaptive corridor in Stamford. It's on half of the corridor is on Route 1. And we partnered with a couple different engineering firms and distributors to start putting this corridor together. So our first step was we identified a corridor that we saw a need for better transport improvements to move people and goods along the corridor. We then identified the corridor as a crucial Route 1 corridor, which is also on the I-95 diversion plan. So we wanted to basically have a backup strategy for if 95 closes, if a lane closes, if something, typically what happens is all the traffic gets rerouted onto Stamford Route 1 and all of the side streets. So we wanted to come up with a better plan to mitigate that traffic moving to and from Stamford. So basically we came up with this corridor. Then what we did was we partnered with AKRF, which is a in-town actually engineering firm. And we did a before case study and what a adaptive would actually gain us. We came up with some numbers on what our total stops would decrease and our vehicle delays and our fuel efficiency would go up. And then we partnered with New England Traffic Solutions to come up with what exactly we needed to implement this technology. We worked with both of them and we came up with a plan and we put a plan together and then we actually went for funding. So we went for funding and we were going to use, well, we were planning on using an EPA energy efficiency grant. It's a block grant. We're kind of up in the air if it's still applicable because we weren't awarded the money fully yet. So we don't know if the funding was cut yet. We're still waiting to hear back from that. Once we get the grant, our next phase is implementation. or testing then implementation. We also had an RSA on Washington Boulevard with the CTDOT that we partnered with, and we also came up with another idea there to do a adaptive study and implementation. So that will be kind of working in tandem since both roads will cross each other. We're also tying a lot of this into our Vision Zero initiative. So we're developing our Tier 1 and Tier 2 and Tier 3 intersections, and we're going to start with a lot of our Tier 1 intersections are in our downtown area. So we're going to start developing safety strategies in our downtown area. One of them that we're going to implement is adaptive signalization. So we're going to kind of roll all these strategies together and bring it into Vision Zero to try to minimize a lot of the fatalities and crashes that we have in Stamford. We're also implementing at the same time on our Vision Zero side a lot of different traffic safety measures. So this is just one of them that we're using. And that's basically it, what we have for now. We're just kind of waiting to see what our next step is with our grant. And then once we receive our grant and our funding, we're just going to kind of move forward into our testing stages. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. And if you have any questions for Stephen, just pop them in the chat for now, and then we'll return to them at the end of, or towards the end of today's session. So now we'll move on to Gabriella, who will share her experiences in Greenwich. Looks good, Gabriella. And you're muted, just by the way.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good morning. My name is Gabriella, and I am the Department of Public Works engineering chief engineer in the engineering division. Just a moment. Okay. I'm excited to be here and to have been asked to be part of this conversation with others who are interested in this fairly new traffic technology. From the municipal side, I'm going to go over our experience with design and implementation of the adaptive signal control technology along the Arch Street corridor, as well as what else we have planned regarding adaptive in the town of Greenwich. So the town of Greenwich owns and operates all traffic signals in the town, including those along Route 1. When the Department of Public Works embarked on this project several years ago, started in 2012, which seems like yesterday, but over 10 years ago, we knew that then there was a significant traffic issue in this corridor. And it was due to the train station on the I-95 on and off ramps, the proximity to downtown, Bruce Museum, Bruce Park, and especially Roger Sherman Baldwin Park, which hosts many high traffic volume events. On a corridor that that's used by approximately 35,000 vehicles daily and growing, we knew we had to look into the future to see if there is a new technology that could be used to improve traffic flow, especially queue lengths at the I-95 off ramps. We were hoping to decrease travel time, reduce congestion, and lower vehicle emissions. A CMAQ grant, Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Grant opportunity came up about the same time. So we jumped on the opportunity to submit an application, and we're fortunate to be awarded that grant. So you see here we have the I-95 right at the center and right around us. It's a very busy area of town. In reviewing several different options, we decided that adaptive signal control technology checked all the boxes. It's not appropriate for every location, but just unlike traditionally timed traffic signals, adaptive accommodates changing traffic patterns and calculates a traffic signal timing plan based on the changing traffic conditions on the roadway caused by traffic crashes, special events, road construction, and other roadway incidents in real time. being in the proximity of the I-95, it was the perfect solution. We were excited to find out that the new adaptive traffic signal system is able to detect an influx in vehicles and can improve the traffic congestion by instantly adjusting the timing of the traffic lights at all 5 intersections. We also use this opportunity to update all the APS push buttons to ensure compliance with ADA. So once we decided we were going in this direction with the design process, with the project utilizing the CMAQ grant funds, there was some additional paperwork involved when it came to the design and construction process, which was a huge undertaking, and there was a bit of a learning curve for me. But with the assistance of District 3 at Connecticut DOT and the great contractor that we had, it was smooth sailing. So the overall project, of course, involved the implementation of the adaptive signal control system along the corridor for 5 intersections. We replaced all the mast arms, control boxes, head signals, sidewalk sections, and pedestrian ramps. We replaced a signalized driveway with an RRFB. We installed a fiber network to create a loop back to Town Hall, and of course, new signage. So this project was funded by the CMAQ grants, 100% reimbursable along the way, and it was up to $2.75 million. For those unfamiliar with where we are located, this is the area of the second to last or first exit on the I-95 in the southwest corner of Connecticut at the border of New York. So Arch Street starts at Railroad Avenue and along Arch Street to Horseneck Lane, I-95 exit ramps, and Roger Sherman Baldwin Park all the way to Bruce Museum. As for the brains of the system, all 5 intersections received a 352i ATC cabinet, low voltage DC ATC cabinet, and the new traffic lights, control boxes, and pedestrian signals are now more efficient, and they use 66% less energy, which is one of my favorite advantages of this project. These cabinets contain the latest technology needed to run the signalized intersection, including battery backup. Each traffic control box communicates with each other in real time through a fiber optic network, as I mentioned, installed as part of this project. This project also introduced the first yellow flashing arrow in the state. The flashing yellow arrow is a new type of signal located in a dedicated left turn lane at a signalized intersection and signifies yield to oncoming traffic and then to proceed with caution. This alleviates traffic and queue time by allowing vehicles to turn when there is no traffic in the opposing direction. Prior to the flashing yellow arrow, motorists had to wait for the green light to make that turn, which had contributed to incredible backups. MyoVision cameras were installed on the traffic signals, which serve the purpose of collecting and analyzing traffic data on directional traffic flow, vehicle delay, and lane queue length. These cameras can even detect if a pedestrian, cyclist, and the type of vehicle, whether it be a car, SUV, truck, tractor trailer, whether they're traveling through the intersection. The McCain Transparity Adaptive software receives the traffic data from the controllers, and the signal timing is adjusted automatically and improved based on the data received. Since this technology is steadily monitoring the roads, traffic flow is consistently modified depending on traffic patterns throughout the day. Our experience to date has been mostly positive with adaptive signal control technology implementation. It was the first unseen improvement as the implementation had been mostly behind the scenes or in the controller box and cloud, and not visible construction, as is the case with other projects I'm involved with. After the installation of the new mast arms, control boxes, and fiber network, public comments were consistent with your state-of-the-art technology isn't working. And we had a consistently reply with, well, it hasn't been implemented yet. So while all the hardware and all of the mast arms were up, it took some time before the actual adaptive implementation went through. Prior to the install, we had consistent complaints, especially at the I-95 off-ramps, with a lot of queuing. And after the implementation, there were no complaints. As for the lessons learned, it's important to know what is compatible with the controller standard in place. Not all adaptive systems are compatible with certain controllers at that time. It's important to know upfront which technology will interface with the municipality's existing traffic operations system. In addition, it's important to understand that adaptive is not ideal for all locations and shouldn't be looked at as the initial go-to for solving traffic issues. A proper review of existing conditions should be assessed before deciding which way to go. There were some challenges when deploying the system and a bit of a learning curve for a staff responsible for the signal operations. There was a great team involved with this deployment, and it was ultimately successful. Post-implementation, the Greenwich Police Department was used to the old way of overriding the signals during events with high volume traffic. The adaptive is designed for these events. So it was difficult to communicate to just the signal to handle everything on its own. Besides the obstacles, we liked it so much, we decided to pursue in the installation of adaptive along Route 1 in the town of Greenwich from Stamford all the way to Portchester, New York. So due to the success we have had with adaptive along the Arch Street corridor, we moved forward with the design on Route 1. We already had a vendor or software established because of the Arch Street project, and we were lucky because a fiber network is already installed along Route 1, and each intersection already has a 360-degree video detection technology. So a total of 29 maintained traffic signals are included in the project. While the Arch Street project required full replacement of control boxes and signals, this proposed project along Route 1 is using the existing traffic signal equipment and appurtenances as they are in the state of good repair and in compliance with federal standards. They're sufficient to support the adaptive technology in order to run it. The intersections will also have the improved pedestrian facilities that will conform to ADA standards and provide improved pedestrian safety features. So while this is a much longer route than the Arch Street project, it's a different type of project, being that we're not replacing any physical mast arms. So a synchro or sim traffic micro simulation software was used to model both the existing and future volumes under existing phasing and traffic signal system conditions. The proposed optimized phasing has been analyzed using the same software with future volumes to develop optimized, fully actuated time of day plans as the base for adaptive implementation. So that's already underway. We have right now the semi-final design has been completed, and we're looking to submit the final design plans in the near future. With this design, we're hoping the design is completed in March and hopefully advertising the project in April to award the contractor in the spring and begin construction later this summer. Right now, our construction cost is close to 1.8 million, with 30% incidentals and contingencies, bringing the total construction cost estimate to 2.4. So we're looking forward to that project to be able to continue with the adaptive in town. So I thank you for the opportunity to share this project or both projects with you. I have been fortunate enough to have been trusted with both projects from beginning to end, and lucky to have great teams involved in in both of these projects. The town is excited to be a leader in implementing new and advanced infrastructure that can decrease vehicle emissions, improve air quality, and we credit this technology on making a positive impact in our environment today and for future generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriella. Great to hear about the lessons learned from your projects, and then also what's coming up in the future and how they go as well. So now we'll turn it over to Fred, who will be our last presenter for this morning, and then we'll open up the Q&A. So like I have mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, and we'll be happy to come back to them a little bit later on. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. This is Fred Eshraghi, traffic engineer with the city of Norwalk for the last 20 years. Also, I worked for City of Greenwich for 4 years as well. So today we have this $1 million question, traffic adaptive system. I would like to just go back a little bit and talk about so traffic adaptive, yes or no? I'm sure that there are so many municipalities that still they have dilemma about using the traffic adaptive system, or just to stay with the time-based coordination, or just exclusive signal system. So why municipality hesitated to use the traffic adaptive system? And the answer is just because adaptive system is just time consuming and need more manpower, and also you have to have a top-notch traffic engineer watching and maintaining the system 24/7 to make sure that it works as an efficient way, software and hardware. So that was the reason, as a municipal engineer for the last 20 years, I didn't even get close to the adaptive system, because we're all dealing with manpower shortage, at the municipality. But what happened recently, when I'm saying recently, it's about like 5-6 years ago. So what the manufacturer did, that to convince the municipalities to at least start, trying the traffic adaptive system. And the answer is right there. They took over the operation and maintenance of the system. And that's how I started at just, doing some research to see, how I can just, use the traffic adaptive system to help our congestion, travel time, delay, and everything that, we all knows about it. So I started to asking questions, moving around, talking to the other states, other municipality, and then, ask them that what's the benefit, why we have to have the traffic adaptive system. So what the adaptive system can do for us. Is it beneficial? Is it not? And where we can use it. So what everybody was saying that, we're just using it for the places that we have, highly variable or unpredictable traffic. And when I'm thinking about it, so our East Avenue arterial, which is one of our most critical arterial, I have over 8 different patterns on East Avenue. And why I have 8 patterns is just because the traffic is unpredictable. So we have morning rush hour, we have lunchtime, we have afternoon Saturday, and also, suddenly in the middle of the day, you see that, the volume from the exit 16, it just go up and down. So we have to make sure that we can move all of these cars on East Avenue. So that's why I ended up just having 7 different, patterns. And then when we think about the adaptive system, with the technologies in place, you don't need to have, different pattern because the system is going to do it for you. So from this point, we get to the point that where we can use the adaptive system. So there are so many different elements in using the adaptive system, but if we want to just, generally talking about it, if you have a special event, I mean, Norwalk has, a couple of big ones, so Oyster Festival and also water boat shows. So classification, different car classification, also, the volume during those, special events, it's just different than what we have in normal way. If you have a traffic adaptive system, it will definitely adjust the cycle length for you and then change, your split and make sure that, you have enough green time on the main road. Of course, side street is going to, sacrifice a little bit, but at the end of the day, you're moving the car. Or you have, you can, use them during the rush hour time, morning, noon, and afternoon. And also at the intersection individually, that have fluctuated traffic path. So it doesn't need to be 5, 6, 7 intersection to have the adaptive system. Maybe, right in the middle of your, your arterial, one intersection has, fluctuated traffic pattern and then you can use a traffic signal. But one thing that I want to add to it, it's during the construction time. This is something that we experienced as a city of Norwalk, and then how I just get involved with the traffic adaptive system. So it was 2018 that Sona Collection Mall started the construction, and then we have so many issues with the West Avenue. The West Avenue is just turned to be a parking lot during the day because of the construction. We have biking and pretty much everything else in there. So we had so many missed close call and traffic requests and citizen requests that what are we going to do? So it was a very bad situation. So I ended up doing some changing on the timing, come up with a different pattern, and still I'm not saying it didn't work, it worked, but we needed something new. So that's how I started it, and talking to developer that we would like to have the adaptive system on the intersection was affected by the mall, by the construction of the mall. At the beginning, it was no, but at the end of the day, we convinced them to provide that. And so one thing that I have to add here is having an adaptive system is just not good enough. So to have a good and effective adaptive system, there are some requirements in advance. Unfortunately, we had the backbone, very good backbone communication, 10 gigabyte per second speed, and also all the traffic signals were upgraded as well. So we were ready for the traffic adaptive system. So with the Sona Collection Mall, we started the installation of 7 locations, 7 intersections that pretty much resolve our issue because during the construction period, so based on the different detour plan that we had, the system could just adjust the cycle and also the split, and it just helped the situation. So we all know one of the biggest things is just the mayor. So when we have so many citizens, calling and then putting the request for the traffic. So as a traffic department, we have to come up with a solution, and the adaptive system helps us out a lot. So the good part of it, we didn't even pay anything for this system because the Sona Collection paid for it. But at the same time, we help, and we get the benefit of it, and also Sona Collection, can move on with their, project as well. And this adaptive system help us, which is, as I mentioned, 7 intersections before and after the construction. So when the construction is over, traffic adaptive, what we have in West Avenue, it's amazing as far as the effectiveness. AKRS, did some study for us, and then we saw the differences. And then to adding to this 7 intersection, we added another intersection, 8 intersection on West Avenue. That was a project that we finished it on October. So now there are 15 intersections West Avenue, they're all adaptive. So our first adaptive system was in April 2019, and then we're moving forward with new location. So as I mentioned, West Avenue is 15 intersection, and I will, explain a little bit further about, our future plan for the for the adaptive system. So I would like to talk about a little bit about the infrastructure needed for the traffic adaptive system. I'm sure that there are so many different questions about this. I think one of the most important element is the video detection system or the detector system, whatever it is. It has to be perfect. So we can't do anything less than perfect if you want to have an adaptive system. If your detection system not working, so your system is just going to drop, and then pretty much the whole arterial is going to go back to whatever you have. So now we're just going to get the plan B. So one of the most important thing for traffic adaptive system is to have a plan B. So your intersection has, definitely has to have plan B as far as coordination. So you have to have a time-based coordination, optimize when the adaptive system not working. So your intersection is going to go back to coordination. That was number 2. So you need you definitely need the traffic signal management software. As a matter of fact, you don't need to have the full software. Even if you don't have a full software, still you can use the adaptive system. They are just going to turn on the module for you. So that's pretty much it's one of the basic things that you need. Communication network, as I mentioned before, it's very important. If you cannot communicate with your traffic signal, so pretty much traffic adaptive system is going to be isolated. As I mentioned before, manufacturers come up and then they took over the maintenance and the operation of your traffic adaptive system. So I don't need to do anything, but how they're going to do it, they should be able to communicate with your system. If you don't have a good communication system, so basically the adaptive system is going to be on the number 2 again. And also, there was a question that I saw at the beginning that we're talking about the capital and operational cost. So it just depends what you have. If you need to replace the whole intersection, I'm talking about, when I'm saying whole intersection, means you need to replace the controller, the cabinet. So the cost is going to be high. So we're talking about $60,000 per cabinet. But if you have the updated, traffic cabinet with the updated controller, your module is going to be between $20,000 to $25,000, maybe $30,000. It depends on how you do it. If you do it in-house, it's a little bit cheaper. If you just go through the contractor, it's going to be more expensive. So that was as far as operation. And so I would like to come back to Norwalk. So as I mentioned, we have 15 intersections right now up and running in West Avenue, which is perfectly fine. And then it will, it just helps us to run the traffic. It's a very unpredictable, arterial West Avenue. And then with these 15 intersections on the, adaptive system, it's just, hassle-free for us. I mean, and so what we're doing here right now, so everybody knows Walk Bridge is in Norwalk, and pretty much affecting so many different arterial and also the side of the street. So based on the experience that I had on Sona Collection Mall, I approached the Connecticut Department of Transportation and asked them that, why don't we just, have the adaptive system on intersection were affected by Walk Bridge project. So I requested 24 adaptive system, including the concurrent pedestrian crossing. And then, well, thank God we get like 14 of them. We are in the process of the installation of every one of them. And then I'm sure that it will help us out during the time. So 2-3 years, we have ahead of us between, the completion of the Walk Bridge project. And I'm sure those traffic adaptive system will help us out. And again, all of those intersections that I'm talking about, they all communicating with the system, with our transport, with our TSP, traffic management center. And so communication, it's already there. All this controller upgraded. All we need to do just to add the module, which is the traffic adaptive system, and also changing the exclusive pedestrian crossing to concurrent. That's one of the things that I am, suggesting. If you want to go to the traffic adaptive system, exclusive pedestrian, I'm not saying it doesn't work. It works, but it's not the most efficient way of doing the traffic adaptive system. You need to move on with the concurrent and the lead pedestrian interval to have a better, result of the traffic adaptive system. So our future, based on what I see until 2027, we are going to have 34 intersection all adaptive. On Route 1, it will be finished by May of 2025. That's another 5 intersection. Those are the intersections that we took over from the state of Connecticut. So we're replacing the controller as part of phase 4 traffic signal upgrade. And then we're putting the adaptive system. We have another 5 that we upgrade them 15 years ago. All of those will be added to this 5, and then the total of 9 intersections on Route 1. I am sure that they will help us to move the car. Also, East Avenue as part of underground utility, and also the Walk Bridge, 8 intersections will be adaptive. That's 4 of them, definitely are going to be on adaptive by September 2025, and then the rest of them, hopefully, by the time that East Avenue utility project is done, we should have all of them on adaptive system. Martin Luther King Boulevard, 6 intersection. It's a very critical arterial as part of the Walk Bridge. Based on my understanding and on where we are, hopefully by the end of 2025, MLK is going to be all adaptive system. Plus the North Main and South Main, there are 4 intersections over there. And then we have 2 intersections on Water Street, which is right in front of the construction, Walk Bridge construction, and also Fort Point intersection as well. The total of 34 intersections will be on adaptive by 2027. So, that's our future. Let me just talk about what we have as far as a traffic adaptive system in the city of Norwalk. So ATMS.now, it's our central software. We have been using them, since 2005. It started from NASDAQ and then go to Trafficware, and then end up with the Cubic. The smaller, the better. That's the funny part of it. And then SynchroGrain traffic signal adaptive system is the platform that we use for the traffic adaptive system. As far as the detection, so we have 2 different platforms. We have Econolite, Autoscope, and the new version, which is the Vision, and also the Grid Smart. These are the platforms that we use for the traffic video detection. Controller is ATC and the 2070, and also our communication is all fiber. I think I talked about the cost, and basically there are so many different systems out there. I am not personally saying that you just go with this. It's all about what you have and then what you need. So if you have McCain, so different. I mean, for me, SynchroGrain was the best option because I already have the ATMS. So to me, I mean, it's better to just go with the same central software. That's my basically opinion. And I have a picture in here, and then pretty much that's what I have to say. So I'm waiting for the question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fred. We appreciate you sharing. And thank you to all of our presenters, Gabriella, Stephen, and Fred. Just as a reminder, the session is being recorded, so the presentations will be available to you in the near future. So I'll ask a few of the questions that we received before the session today, and then I'll go into the chat and ask some of the questions that were kind of put in there. Any of our panelists are welcome to answer the questions. And I know that parts of these questions have been addressed, but if there's anything that you'd like to add, please feel free to do so. So Fred, you touched on this a little bit already, but the capital and operational costs, that was one of the questions that we received. And also if the person who submitted this question wants to add anything, feel free to unmute. So. Anything else on that? Another part of that question had asked about the level of technical capacity needed for operations.
As far as technical level, you're definitely going to have to learn some newer technology and some newer strategies. But if you're pretty much familiar with your operation and your current system, as long as it's up to date and you get a manufacturer that will work with your pre-existing system, it's not too far out of the ballpark. There are some different things that you have to learn, but there's training and stuff that could be include it with your package when you purchase your licensing.
Can I say something? I think as far as knowledge, so Steve mentioned it. A traffic engineer definitely can understand the adaptive system. So if you are in the place in the situation that want to add the adaptive system, so you already have the central software and in and out of your central software. But the beauty of the new traffic adaptive system is that as a traffic engineer with the municipality, we don't need to get ourselves 100% involved. I'm one of those engineers that I would like to be a power user. I know in and out of my traffic management software, which is the HMS.now. But as far as the adaptive system, I really, don't have time, but I don't need to do that because the operation and maintenance all cubic. All I have to do is just a phone call if there's any issue, and then they're on it, and then they're going to take it up.
And then the third part of this question is the effectiveness in colonial road grid. So fine-grained offset intersections, access management, and if ineffective in the colonial road grid, what has worked better?
Steve, do you want to answer this question?
I mean, that could be more you or Gabriella. You guys have things running already, so I think that could be on you guys.
I mean, where we have it in place right now along the Art Street corridor, I guess I wouldn't consider it like a colonial road grid. It's more of like a highway interchange. So I don't know if it would relate to the question asked.
And then personally, city of Norwalk, so we don't have the grid. I mean, when we talk about the grid traffic, the grid, let's say we're talking about the intersection that we have, northwest, east, west, and north, south. So the volume on both sides are so high. And then, fortunately or unfortunately, we don't have such an intersection. New Haven is the one that would definitely have the benefit of this because there's so much, all of their, streets are all grid because the volume, you can't just name them side street and main street. So all four directions main street. I don't have any experience over those, and I haven't done any of those things yet. But.
Thank you. So then going into the chat, the first question that we received, what is the difference between signal tiers? Vincent asked.
So the signal tiers were something that we developed as part of our Vision Zero initiative. And basically what we did was we took pedestrian crashes, fatality crashes, overall crashes, and we grouped them per intersection. And then we weighted and combined them. And that's what gave us our higher, intersections with crashes, fatalities, and pedestrian crashes are in our tier ones, and then stepping down tier 2 and 3.
Anything else to add on to that one? Are there reoccurring costs associated with the McCain Adaptive? That question was directed towards Gabriella in Greenwich.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Great, thank you. Next question from Devin. Can these adaptive signals also accommodate emergency vehicle preemption? Are there plans to consider them in the future? States like Massachusetts have integrated them as they update signals throughout their cities and other urban areas.
So the town of Greenwich, prior to the Art Street project, already had emergency preemption sensors on all the signals. When we installed the new mast arms and new controller boxes and all the updates, we pretty much relocated them back onto the signals. Along the proposed project on Route 1 and throughout town, we've actually just transitioned to a different type of preemption system. We now have the Opticom GPS vehicle detectors And then inside each vehicle, there's a detector that knows when the siren's on and will send a signal to the controller box to turn the signal green. So we've incorporated that as part of our design to consider that in the modeling. So we already have a system in place, and the proposed adaptive system along the Route 1 corridor will incorporate those conditions.
So just to add to that, in conjunction, basically preemption and adaptive can work side by side together with each other. And basically, what that does is basically your adaptive can actually accommodate the preemption and get you back into step faster by adjusting the signal so your corridor comes better aligned and back into step with one another.
And I would like to add, so Norwalk has the full preemption system. All of our signals preempt, they have the Opticom. And also we're moving forward the TSP, transit signal priority, our phase 5 traffic signal upgrade. And at the same time, so the question was if the traffic adaptive system can accommodate preemption. Yes, it can. And I've been seeing the presentation from different providers, My Vision, GTT, Applied Information, and Light, all three of them, because we have to just, install, and we have to just, install the new transit signal priority, and the city of Norwalk. And that was one of the questions from them, that, if the adaptive system will come and accommodate. We already, have them in West Avenue. As Steve mentioned, as a matter of fact, it worked much better for the emergency vehicle, and I'm sure this is going to happen for the buses as well. Yes, definitely traffic adaptive, will make it more efficient, for both transit signal priority and the preemption system.
From Andy, how does having a hawk signal align with an adaptive system, in line with an adaptive system, affect its operation?
Well, Andy wasn't allowed to ask questions. No, so basically it treats it as basically a regular system, and basically it can, on your corridor, it can bring your walk times up in line with it. What we do in Stamford is we actually run our hawks at half cycles. So half the time they're exactly coordinated, and the other half of the time they are in between cycles. So basically it minimizes your wait times.
Thanks, Stephen. From Devin, any thoughts on BRTs or moving transit buses along corridors, transit heavy corridors?
I think I answered that question. So that's pretty much the transit signal priority. So yes, that all the adaptive platform, they can accommodate the transit signal priority, absolutely. But based on my understanding, based on what I saw in the presentation, was.
Yep, I know that's something on our radar. We haven't looked too much into that, but I know New York has the system up and running, and they're doing it currently.
And the last question we have in the chat here for now, from Nick, can the adaptive signals also accommodate fluctuations in pedestrian activity?
Yes, they can, in a way. A pedestrian activity, your times for pedestrians can't get adjusted. So basically that's a fixed time. But when you're developing your adaptive timings and your thresholds, you can take that into consideration. I know that AKRF, I gave them a very hard time with our adaptive modeling, because we put pedestrians in there like 70% of the time, because we want basically our corridor to withstand what we have now as well as what we can have in the future. So we kind of overproof everything, and that's kind of one of my downfalls. But you could, when you set your thresholds, you can take into consideration pedestrian activity and how it's going to react towards it.
This is something that we've definitely struggled with during the design process of the Route 1 corridor. Going in some locations, We have exclusive, and then just going from exclusive to concurrent was a concern in a lot of locations, especially near schools. Like Steve said, you have set timing, especially if it's, concurrent. But for exclusive phasing, sometimes if you have, a longer duration, it's going to impact the adaptive and the travel time. And it was hard to find that medium between sacrificing, pedestrian safety over the corridor, and the time it takes to get from point A to point B. So it's a concern that you have to be careful with, and just make sure that you have that happy medium and design accordingly.
And I would like to add to this, to me, pedestrian is the most important, part of, our whole thing, because what we do here is to just make the road, safer for the road user. I think the most important part is the, the pedestrian. So that's why I mentioned that if you want to do the adaptive system, so it has to be concurrent. But when we get to the point that, there are so many pedestrians, so we're going to take that one off the adaptive system and then put them just an exclusive. So pedestrian always, number one. So I have one intersection which has 8 different legs, and that's running right in the middle of the, West Avenue. It's on free, and then that's the place that I believe I built 2 different grouping. One goes up, one goes down, and then that's Matthews Park. It just worked free, and then it always provide enough timing for all the pedestrian. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. So we don't have any more questions in the chat, but we do have about 2 minutes if anyone has one final question that they want to unmute and ask, or a comment. A follow-up question or something that they would want to add on. No problem. Okay, sounds good. Wonderful. So I just want to again thank you to Stephen, Fred, and Gabriella. You all did an amazing job. We really appreciate you taking the time to develop your presentations and share your experiences with us. And to everyone who participated this morning, who came onto this session, asked a question. We really hope that this was a valuable use of your time. An evaluation, the link to our evaluation for this session is in the chat. Regina just put it into the chat. Thank you. And then I will also share a QR code as well that you can use to access our evaluation. So there's that. I think Donna put a note in the chat. We really like to know if there's anything else you'd like to discuss, either on adaptive signals or other topics that you would like to see presented in this 1-hour coffee and conversation format. And that's all that we have for you today. Thank you so much for attending and participating, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.